19-year-old Ukrainian model Alina deliberately infected herself with HIV to take revenge on the man she believed was responsible for her older sister's death. This plan, which she had been hatching for over a year, was not an act of desperation, but a coldly calculated operation in which her own life became the final and most compelling argument. This story did not receive wide coverage in the global media. Its details were whispered in small circles, becoming the subject of rumors, but never the subject of an official investigation. It all started 2 years ago with a phone call that divided Alina's life into before and after. The voice on the other end of the line, belonging to a representative of a modeling agency, dryly and emotionlessly reported that her sister, 22-year-old Katerina, had been found dead in a hotel room in Dubai. The official cause of death was an overdose of illegal substances. For a family from a small Ukrainian town, in which Katerina was the main hope and support, this news was a devastating blow. Katerina was not the type of girl prone to self-destruction. She was ambitious, disciplined, and well aware that her appearance and reputation were her only assets. She sent almost all of her earnings home, paid for her mother's medical treatment, and dreamed of one day bringing her younger sister to live with her. The overdose theory seemed absurd and false to Alina. She began her own investigation, which was amateurish at first. She spent hours on forums where girls working in the escort and modeling business in the Middle East communicated anonymously. She gathered information bit by bit, comparing facts and rumors. Soon, the same name began to pop up in the correspondence: Prince Khalid Al Saud, an influential member of the Saudi royal family, a man in his late 50s, known for his specific tastes and enormous wealth. His name had been linked to several incidents involving the disappearance or sudden death of young women from Eastern Europe. But each time, the case had been hushed up, thanks to his connections and money. Alina discovered that Katerina had been on his yacht during the last week of her life. Officially, this had not been recorded anywhere. As Alina delved deeper into the dark world of elite escort services, she stumbled upon information about a private event known as the Pearl Circle. It was not just an escort service, but an underground auction where the world's richest people bought the right to spend the first night with girls whose virginity had been confirmed by medical certificates. The auctions were held several times a year on giant superyachts cruising in neutral waters near Monaco. Prince Khalid was one of the regular and most generous clients of this circle. At that moment, the plan for revenge began to take on its monstrous form. Alina realized that she did not have the resources to fight the prince by legal means. Any accusations would be ridiculed and buried under tons of money from his lawyers. The only way to get to him was to become what he wanted most. She decided to become a lot at this auction, but her goal was not money. Her goal was his body, his blood, his future. Alina devoted the next year to methodical preparation. The first and most frightening step was deliberate infection. Through the same anonymous channels, she found a person who helped her do it. It was not an impulsive decision. She studied everything about the human immunodeficiency virus. She knew about the stages, the therapy, the life expectancy. She accepted the fact that her own life would be short and fraught with treatment. After becoming infected, she waited several months until the virus could be detected by tests, and then obtained an official medical certificate from a private European clinic. This document became her main weapon. At the same time, she worked on her appearance, kept herself in shape, and took courses in etiquette and foreign languages. She had to look like the perfect catch: innocent, educated, elegant. Using her sister's remaining contacts and a significant portion of her family's savings, she was able to contact one of the agents who supplied girls to the Pearl Circle. She went through several stages of selection: interviews, psychological tests, and medical examinations by doctors trusted by the organizers. Her cover story was flawless: a young model from a poor family who had preserved her innocence for the sake of a bright future. and was ready to sell it to save her family from poverty. In the end, her photos and biography were included in a closed catalog for participants in the next auction. The operation entered its active phase. Alina waited, knowing that Prince Khalid would definitely pay attention to her. She resembled her sister, but possessed a colder, more detached beauty, which she hoped would intrigue the jaded collector. Alina's calculation proved correct. As soon as Prince Khalid saw her photos in the catalog, he became obsessed. The girl was strikingly similar to Katerina, but there was a coldness in her gaze that he did not remember seeing in her sister. This mixture of the familiar and the new, of innocence and subtle audacity, ignited his collector's passion. He immediately contacted his representatives and made it clear that this lot must be his, whatever the cost. The auction itself took place in an atmosphere of sterile luxury. No more than 30 men gathered on board the 150-meter super yacht Oracle, drifting in international waters. All of them had undergone the strictest vetting and were admitted to this exclusive club. No names, only numbers. Security was provided by former Special Services employees, and all electronics were prohibited. The girls were not paraded on the catwalk like cattle. They were presented through high-quality video portraits, where they told a rehearsed story about themselves. This was followed by a short question and answer session with the organizers, who read out questions from potential buyers. The bidding took place in complete silence, via secure tablets. When Alina's image appeared on the screen, the starting price was set at $1 million. Within minutes, the price had risen to $3 million. 3 people participated in the auction: a representative of an Asian technology magnate, an elderly European aristocrat, and Khalid himself. When the bid reached $4 million, the 2 competitors withdrew. The prince, not wanting to leave any doubt about his superiority, made a final bid of $5 million. The deal was done. Within an hour, the money was transferred through a complex chain of offshore accounts. Alina was taken to the prince's cabin. He expected to see trembling and submission, perhaps tears. Instead, he was met with a calm, almost indifferent gaze. She behaved in a reserved and polite manner, but without the slightest hint of servility. This coldness intrigued and annoyed him at the same time. He was used to owning not only the bodies, but also the emotions of his acquired property. That same night, they flew on his private jet to the Maldives, to one of the islands he owned outright. It was his personal paradise, protected from prying eyes. The flight passed in silence. Alina spent most of the time looking out the window, showing neither fear nor interest in her companion. Upon arrival on the island, they were greeted by silent staff. Everything was prepared for a weekend that, as the prince assumed, would be another pleasant addition to his collection of memories. He took Alina to the main villa, located on the ocean shore. The surroundings were luxurious, but the girl showed no enthusiasm. She behaved as if all this was commonplace for her. After a night spent together, Prince Khalid woke up alone. This did not surprise him. Girls often woke up earlier and waited for him in the living room. But something about the silence in the house alarmed him. He got up and saw a neatly folded piece of paper on the pillow next to his. It was a note written in calligraphic handwriting in English. "My sister sends her regards from the other side. Welcome to my world. You have 10 years left to live, if you're lucky." At first, he took it as a bad joke, but next to the note was another document, folded in 4. It was an official certificate from a Swiss clinic, with seals and signatures. He unfolded it. In the diagnosis column was the abbreviation, HIV positive. The prince felt a chill inside. He reread the diagnosis several times, but the letters did not change. He rushed to the phone, and with a trembling voice, ordered his personal doctor, who was always on the island, to come to the villa immediately with an HIV rapid test. While he waited, his world, built on power, money, and impunity, began to crumble. He remembered Alina's cold gaze, her strange calmness. It was not the behavior of a victim. It was the behavior of an executioner. The doctor arrived a few minutes later. The test was done in complete silence. 15 minutes of waiting seemed like an eternity to the prince. When 2 lines appeared on the small plastic strip, the doctor turned pale and couldn't say a word. For Khalid al-Saud, a man who considered himself invulnerable, it was a death sentence. The panic that gripped the prince was animalistic, irrational. In an instant, he had gone from being an almighty ruler to a carrier of a deadly disease. His first reaction was to order a search for Alina. He summoned his security chief, a former British Special Air Service officer, and ordered him to seal off the island. But it was too late. A quick search of the area revealed that Alina had left the island several hours earlier. A small speedboat was missing from one of the secluded docks used by the staff. The CCTV cameras at the dock had been professionally disabled without any signs of tampering. It became clear that her escape had been as carefully planned as everything else. She hadn't just disappeared, she had vanished. Probably another vessel was waiting for her in the open sea, which took her beyond the territorial waters of the Maldives. While security guards searched the surrounding atolls without success, Prince Khalid tried to comprehend the scale of the disaster. He was known for his numerous and promiscuous relationships. His entourage included not only escort girls, but also the wives of business partners, actresses, and representatives of the political elite. Dozens of faces flashed through his mind. He realized that he was not just sick, but a biological bomb planted in the very heart of the global establishment. Every contact he had made in recent months was now at risk. The consequences for his reputation and business could be not just devastating, but fatal. He ordered his team to launch an immediate but completely secret operation to inform his most recent partners. It was a delicate mission that required extreme caution to avoid leaks to the press. A week after the incident, an anonymous package arrived at the editorial office of a major European news agency. Inside was a flash drive. It contained a single video file and several documents, including a copy of Alina's medical report and a brief description of the auction on the Oracle yacht. Realizing the explosive nature of the material, the editorial office launched its own investigation. Journalists contacted several sources in the world of elite escorts and special services. Although no one agreed to speak on the record, the information was confirmed anonymously. The story began to leak into closed Telegram channels and blogs specializing in investigations. The major media outlets remained silent for the time being, fearing lawsuits from the prince and lacking 100% proof. But the smoke had already started to rise. Khalid's business partners were the first to react. In the financial world, rumors spread faster than news. Several large investment funds from the US and Europe suspended their participation in joint projects with the prince without explanation. Shares in his holding company, listed on the London Stock Exchange, fell 30% in 2 days amid negative information expectations. The prince's financial empire began to crack. At the same time, human rights organizations in several European countries, having received the same anonymous information, filed requests with the police to reopen investigations into the disappearances of several girls from Eastern Europe who were last seen in the prince's entourage. Among these cases was that of Katerina, Alina's sister. Investigators, who had previously closed these cases due to lack of evidence, were forced to reopen them under public pressure. New details that had previously been ignored began to surface. For example, it turned out that the doctor who signed Katerina's death certificate due to an overdose received a large money transfer from an account affiliated with Khalid a month later. The scandal itself dealt a blow not only to the prince, but to the entire underground auction industry. The organizers of the Pearl Circle panicked, canceled all planned events, and went into hiding. The security and confidentiality on which their business was built were irrevocably compromised. Clients whose names could have come up during the investigation began to hastily sever all ties with the organizers. The culmination of the information campaign was the appearance of Alina's video message. It was published simultaneously on several platforms, including a specially created one-page website, and anonymously sent to dozens of leading global media outlets. The video was recorded in a very simple manner. The girl sat in front of the camera against a neutral white wall. She was dressed in simple clothes and wore no makeup. She looked tired, but spoke calmly, without pathos or tremor in her voice. Her speech lasted just over 10 minutes. In a calm, almost monotonous voice, she told the story of her sister Katerina. She did not cry or raise her voice, but simply stated the facts. How her sister dreamed of escaping poverty, how she ended up in Dubai, how she was last seen in the company of Prince Khalid, and how a few days later, her body was returned to her family in a closed coffin with a conclusion of death by overdose. Alina talked about her own investigation, about the Pearl Circle system, and how impunity and power allow people like the prince to destroy lives without consequences. Then she moved on to her revenge. "I knew that no court in the world would convict him," she said, looking straight into the camera. "His money and connections can buy any silence and any decision. So I decided to pass my own sentence. I used the only weapon I had, my body. I infected myself with HIV and sold him not just a knight, but a mirror image of the fate he had condemned my sister and many other girls to. He bought life and innocence, but got death. This is not terrorism. This is justice as I see it." She ended her speech by saying that she understands the price of her actions and is ready to pay it, but hopes that her story will make the world pay attention to the shadow industry, in which women are nothing more than commodities. This video became the spark that lit the fuse. In a few hours, it gained millions of views. All the major news channels, from CNN to the BBC, aired breaking news reports dedicated to this scandal. The story of the billionaire prince and the vengeful model became the main topic of the day around the world. Khalid's lawyers immediately issued an official statement calling the video a monstrous lie and a planned campaign of discrediting and extortion. They described Alina as an unstable personality with criminal tendencies. They announced that they would file defamation suits against all media outlets that would disseminate this information. However, this attempt to defend themselves failed. Against the backdrop of Alina's calm and convincing performance, the prince's official statements looked like clumsy excuses from the guilty party. Public opinion was clearly on the girl's side. The scandal caused irreparable damage to the Saudi royal family. Although no official comments were made, unofficial sources revealed that Khalid had been summoned to a family council where he was given an ultimatum. He was forced to withdraw completely from all business, transfer control of his assets to trusted individuals, and cease all public appearances. He was effectively placed under unofficial house arrest in one of his palaces in Riyadh. He was deprived of access to most of his fortune, leaving him only with the funds necessary to support himself and pay for medical treatment. His family distanced themselves from him, turning him into an outcast and a toxic asset that needed to be disposed of as quickly as possible. To the outside world, Prince Khalid Al Saud simply disappeared from the radar. His name ceased to appear in society columns and financial reports. He became a ghost locked in a golden cage. At the same time, investigations in Europe gained momentum. Alina's testimony gave investigators a powerful boost. Several former employees of escort agencies who had worked with the prince, inspired by her actions, agreed to give anonymous testimony. They confirmed the existence of the auction system and spoke of abuse and suspicious incidents on Khalid's yachts. Katerina's death was officially reclassified, and the German prosecutor's office, of which one of the managers of the Pearl Circle was a citizen by second passport, issued an international arrest warrant for him. The chain reaction set off by Alina was already irreversible. A year and a half after the video message was published, the world had almost forgotten about this story. the media hype died down, giving way to new scandals. Alina, as promised, disappeared. According to rumors, she found refuge in one of the countries of Southeast Asia, which has no extradition agreement with Saudi Arabia. She lived under a different name, regularly undergoing antiretroviral therapy. She used the money she received from the prince, the very same $5 million, to support organizations that help victims of human trafficking through anonymous funds. She did not give interviews or make contact. Her mission was complete, and she was simply living out her life. For her, it was not a tragedy. She had made a conscious choice and now calmly accepted its consequences. There was no room for regret in her life. She had avenged her sister in the only way available to her, and it brought her a grim but firm satisfaction. Meanwhile, Prince Khalid Al Saud was fading away in complete isolation. He lived in a luxurious palace under round-the-clock surveillance by guards who were assigned to him more as jailers than as protectors. Modern therapy allowed him to control the development of HIV, but his psychological state was destroyed. A man accustomed to unlimited power and adoration found himself in a complete social vacuum. His former friends and partners avoided even mentioning his name. His family completely cut him out of their lives. He grew old alone, surrounded by servants who were afraid to look him in the eye. His only companions were doctors who reminded him daily of his vulnerability. He spent his days looking at old photos and videos of himself when he was young, healthy, and all-powerful. The memory of that night in the Maldives and Alina's cold stare became his personal hell. The results of the investigations initiated by the scandal were ambiguous. The manager of the Pearl Circle, who was arrested in Germany, made a deal with the investigators. He provided information about the structure of the organization, its clients, and financial schemes. This led to several high-profile but mainly financial scandals. Several well-known businessmen and politicians were forced to resign or pay huge fines for participating in illegal financial transactions related to the auctions. However, it was not possible to prove that any of them were involved in violent crimes. Too much time had been lost, and there was no direct evidence. The cases of the disappearance and death of the girls, including Katerina, remained unsolved in the legal sense of the word. No one officially accused Prince Khalid of murder. Without Alina's testimony, which she could not give in court without risking her freedom and her life, it was impossible to prove his guilt. Thus, formal justice was not served. Nevertheless, the effect of Alina's actions went far beyond the legal framework. The entire underground industry of elite escort services was set back decades. The reputational risks became too high, even for the most powerful clients. Alina's story became a kind of cautionary tale, told in the corridors of power and big business, a warning that even absolute power has its limits, and that a cornered victim can be more dangerous than any predator. The final frame of this story was not captured by any camera. It exists only in the imagination of those who know its details, an aged, sick, and lonely prince in his gilded mausoleum, and somewhere on the other side of the world, a young woman watching his slow demise on her laptop screen. Her revenge did not bring her happiness or a long life, but it did bring her peace. She restored justice as she saw fit, paying the highest price for it.